Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at the Etiqus Classic Tour, which is Etiqus is a brand very focused around golf watches, and Classic Tour is their more dressy style. We've already reviewed their more sporty uh, designed watch, so here we are looking at the classier version. We have all three different colours, so we'll have a look at them. But first, if you haven't watched my other Etiqus review, we'll just have a look at the opening process in the boxes because it is very impressive and worth sharing. So this is the box you receive from them. You open it up and have a nice message there from Gary, the founder. So you open it up, and in here you have a nice little golf etiquette book, which is a nice touch. And then there we go. So I'll move that out of the way. So then within there you have the smaller box, which has a sleeve, and then finally we are at the main box itself with Etiqus embossed on top. We open that up, and here we have the watch itself. So we have the watch on this side, on a cushion, and then this side, which is a really cool little addition, which I really like. If you play golf, this is to mark where your ball goes on the green, which is a very nice touch. Very weighty as well, feels really good. So this is actually the bezel on their Sport Pro. It's the patented pace of play bezel. So that's sort of like a bit of a well-known part of the Etiqus brand. So which is why they've put that on this ball marker. But I think it's a really cool little gift to add with every watch. So there we go. So I just pop that back in its little house there, and there we go. So as you can see, the one I have out already is the grey dial. So not only do I have that one, but I also have the white dial with the brown strap, and also the black dial with the black strap. So the prices are £179 on leather and £199 on the bracelet. Talking about the specs, it's quite reasonably sized. It's 40mm in diameter. It has a lug-to-lug length of 50mm, which is actually quite long for a watch that size, with quite a thin height of 9mm. It has a Swiss-made movement. It's a Ronda. I'm not entirely sure of the exact model in the Classic Tour, but it could be the 6003D, as is in the Sport Pro. The crystal is a very thick sapphire. You can tell by tapping it. It gives quite a solid thump. And the strap is 20mm at the lugs, reducing down to 18mm at the buckle, and it's the same on both, 20mm down to 18. And then finally we have 50 meters water resistance. So although you're not going to be able to go scuba diving or snorkeling or anything like that, it should be sufficient enough for a brief submersion in water. Okay, so from a design standpoint, obviously the key feature really is the dimply golf ball style dial, which is the same as on all of the Etiqus watches. And I've actually noticed that on the Classic Tour, on this model in particular, it's much better. It's made much more effectively and much more accurately than the Sport Pro. Because on the Sport Pro, each dimple is a little bit almost pixelated around the edges, whereas on the Classic Tour, on this watch, we'll see closer when I get the macro lens on. It's much smoother and looks a lot better. Okay, so if I just put this one on, and we can have a think about the watch itself. So we're talking about the case then. We have quite a variety of finishes. We have a polished bezel. These two like sections of the lugs are brushed, which is quite an interesting little section. It's quite interesting for the design. And then we have polished sides, see there, and then the case back is polished around the edge, and then the case back itself is this circular brushed finish. Whilst we're on the case back, obviously, as you can see, very simple. It just has Etiqus and then Spirit of the Game underneath, which is sort of their slogan. The engraving is nice and deep. It's not simple laser etching or anything. It's very good engraving, which is nice to see. The crown is very basic, no etching or no markings or anything like that. Personally, I probably would like to see a little E or a logo motif, maybe even a bit of a dimpley texture like the dial, anything really. So for my personal taste, I think it's could do with something really, but doesn't stop it from being perfectly useful. You can pull it out very easily and adjust the time perfectly fine as well. Push it back in. Feels quite sturdy and solid in the hand as well, mainly probably because of the decent movement that's been used. So so the finishing is all tip top, really well finished. The whole case is pretty spotless really, and it feels very well made, even though it's very thin on the wrist. It has quite a low low feeling to it. It fits nicely under any cuffs you may have, and it looks smart on because of the size. I think 40mm is quite a reasonable size as well. I've got about a 7¼ inch wrist for your reference, so I think for me it's quite a reasonable size, very good size in that regard. And like I said, the height is a nice little positive as well. It's quite light as well, so when you are playing golf, it won't really give you any issues in that regard. The sapphire crystal, let's move on to this colour. Sapphire crystal is very good, very clear. Has a very slight layer of anti-reflective coating on the underside. Not that you can sort of see it there, reflecting away in the window. So when you're just glancing at your watch, it does do a very good job in keeping reflections at bay, and makes the watch look pretty expensive as well because of the clarity it provides. Okay, so moving on to the dial itself. As I mentioned before, it's quite a nice little touch to have the dimply golf ball texture to it. It's not too harsh either. It's done tastefully. It's done enough to make it a nice design feature, rather than being too brash or too extreme really. So that's good. The elements on the dial are all very well made and machined as well. So we have all these applied hour markers and a nice applied date window frame as well, all polished to match the hands. The hands are very classic Dauphin point, very thin and elegant as well. And of course we have a cool little golf flag as the second hand, which is again a nice little nod to golfing, and it shows the amount of thought that's gone into the design of these watches. So that's quite a nice little touch. The logo and the Spirit of the Game text there, and also Swiss Movement, they're all on their own sort of platforms, which again is quite nice to see. To save them printing directly on the dimple pattern, I think that would end up being quite messy. So it's quite accurately lined up as well. So it really does show the time that's gone into and the accuracy of making the dial. So the date window is white on all of the watches. I know this may bother some. It doesn't particularly bother me, but if it does bother you, then obviously go for the white one, because then it does match the dial. So talking about the loom isn't the strongest, but I'll get my UV torch just to give it a quick charge. See if we can see that. So if I try and show you that, sort of gives us a little idea. I mean, the loomed sections are very thin. You can see the amount of loom on the hands themselves is quite minimal, really, and the loom isn't too strong, so I wouldn't hold your breath about it being particularly a good loom for you. So that's one thing that is a shame. But again, watches costing around this much, it's not very often at all you see a watch with good loom costing around this much. So it's not something we can really complain about. Okay, so let's move on to the strap and bracelet now. My personal preference, usually I'm a bracelet man, but in this instance I really think that the leather wins out. I think it looks very smart on leather, and I just think the general design of the watch suits a smart leather watch more than it does the bracelet. So the bracelet, I mean, I'm late 20s and it doesn't really call out to me in terms of style and design. So it's not particularly to my taste. So that's what I'm trying to say. It does sound a little bit jangly as well, but once you've got it on, it doesn't really give you any cheap sounding noises or anything like that. So it has quite a nice variety of finishes actually, with these two polished columns and also the brushed center and end links, and then we have got it polished either end as well, and underneath it's all polished, all brushed, sorry, and quite soft as well, so it does provide a very comfortable fit. It's good to see we have solid end links as well, which sometimes you don't see on a watch costing this much, so that is a good point. And then we have the buckle, which could look a little bit nicer, but it serves its purpose well. It's very comfortable to wear, just single locking, so you just press the two buttons either side, and then we have the Etiqus logo quite deeply engraved in the centre there. Okay, so the leather straps, the brown leather strap has a really nice like quite deep oaky colour, and then a lighter brown stitching, which is really nice to see. The underneath has the Etiqus logo, genuine leather on the underside, and then we have a polished buckle to match the case, and as you can see we have the Etiqus logo quite lightly, I think it's laser engraved, yeah, laser etched in the buckle there. Quite accurate, but as always, personally I'd prefer it to be engraved, but never mind. So the black strap, which in my opinion is the black watch is very cool. Black everything, very smart. So we have a black strap with the matching black stitching, and on the underside we have a similar affair to the brown strap. So the leather itself is very soft, very comfortable as well. So it is a good quality strap. You can tell. I'm struggling to decide whether my favourite is the brown strap with the white face or the all black. So personally, I can't really choose. Okay, so let's have a look at the watch in closer detail then. So I'll just put the macro lens on. So just give the watch a bit of a wipe down. I'll just adjust the time as well to get the hands out of the way. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at the dial first. So you can see when we zoom up, we can see the edge into the dimples very slightly, but it's nowhere near as much as the Sport Pro. So to the naked eye, this is actually very smooth, and it looks very, very good, very neat. So in that regard, it does look a lot better. There's the logo on its own mini platform printed directly on top of it, which is good to see. So that's quite accurate, which is nice. And then we have this section spirit of the game in a similar way. So that is quite good to see as well. Just okay. Have this date wheel nicely applied, which is a nice level of finish as well, which sometimes you don't see on a watch costing this much. And then every hour marker is very nicely applied as well. Okay, so then we have this minute track around the outside, again in tiny little dimples, which is, you know, there's a lot of thought and effort being put into these dials, which is quite cool. And then let me just change dial so we can look at the hands. So then we'll look at the hands on the black face. So the hands are very thin and elegant, pretty well made as well. There's the counterweight flag of the second hand as well. Okay, so moving on to the case then, I'll swap watch again and I'll just wipe this one down. We have the polished bezel, quite hard to catch, and then the polished side as well. And we have this brushed top of the lug, which is a nice little, you know, would have been quite complicated just to brush that small aspect of it. So, you know, it's quite a good amount of detail to the watch. And then we'll swing it around and have a look at the plain crown. There it is, pulled out. There you go. So good level of finish to all the mirrored and brushed finishing. So this is the underside. So spirit of the game, quite nicely engraved, as you can see, pretty deep. We have Etiqus on the other side. Looks to me like the case back is push fit, so you have a little tab just there. You can get a tool under just to pop it off, which is probably why it's only 50 meters water resistance. So looking at the bracelet first, then we have the polished channels, which are a nice level of polish as well, and then these brushed links surrounding them, and we have the polished sides as well. And then finally we have the Etiqus logo on the buckle. It's one of the buttons itself, and then this is the center section. There we go. So we'll just have a quick look at the leather then. See, the stitching is all pretty accurate. Okay, nice. It looks like a nice quality leather as well. And then the underside is very soft. And There's the Etiqus logo on the buckle. And then finally the black strap. There's the top. The stitching of that as well. There we go. Okay. So if you are an avid golfer and you're looking for a golfing watch, then of course Etiqus is the correct way to go. I think they're a brilliant brand. They're UK based, so naturally I'm very enthusiastic about them because we haven't got that many UK based watch brands. So in that regard, that's a plus. Gary Butler is a wonderful man as well. I've met him a couple of times, and he is very friendly, always willing to be helpful and to help out. Concerning the price, I actually think it's pretty much bang on with the price as well. £180, £179 for the leather strap watch is really good for, you know, a very custom made watch with which is nicely made, good quality as well, good specs. And then £199 for the bracelet watch. Personally, I wouldn't go for it, but you know, if you like the style of the bracelet, then of course it would be perfectly suitable for you. So yeah, I really like them, and I'm more than happy wearing them around the golf course. I'm more than happy wearing them off the golf course as well, because I do think that they are pretty smart looking dress watches as well. So I'll just do one final look, one final show of how they look on the wrist. So yes, I would wholeheartedly recommend them. So this has been the Etiqus Classic Tour, and that's what you're all about.